Husband made me a cup of coffee with a strange smell. I lifted the cup, and the odd metallic scent made my stomach turn. Instead of drinking it, I quietly swapped mugs with my sister-in-law, who had always bullied me. 30 minutes later, she clutched the table, her hands shaking violently. "Don't you want to try the coffee I made especially for you, honey?" my husband James asked with an odd smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I was sitting at my sister-in-law Nina's elegant dining table, in her Nashville home, where we gathered for our monthly family brunch. The coffee cup in front of me had a strange, almost metallic smell that made my stomach turn. At 29, I never imagined I'd be questioning whether my own husband was trying to poison me. But after 3 years of marriage and countless incidents of accidental food poisoning, I had learned to be cautious, especially around Nina. She had a way of orchestrating situations that left me sick or humiliated, always with that same innocent smile James was wearing. "How thoughtful of you," I replied, forcing a smile while my mind raced. The aroma wafting from the cup was unlike any coffee I'd smelled before. It reminded me of the time last month when I'd ended up in urgent care after drinking tea at Nina's house. The doctors couldn't explain my symptoms, and Nina had insisted she'd made the tea exactly the same way she made her own. Nina watched me intently from across the table, absently stirring her own untouched coffee. "James has become quite the barista lately," she said with a smirk. "He's been practicing different brewing methods, just for you." The way she emphasized "for you" sent chills down my spine. I had noticed James spending more time at Nina's house lately, claiming they were planning a surprise for our upcoming anniversary, but something felt off. The whispered conversations that stopped when I entered the room, the strange texts I glimpsed on his phone, and now this coffee with its peculiar scent. I lifted the cup, pretending to take a sip while studying their expressions. James and Nina exchanged a quick glance that confirmed my suspicions. Making a show of checking my phone, I stood up abruptly. "Oh, would you look at that? I need to make a quick call for work. Nina, would you mind if I use your study?" As I walked past Nina's place setting, I deliberately stumbled, quickly switching our coffee cups in the confusion of steadying myself. "I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, straightening up. "I'm such a klutz sometimes." Nina waved off my apology with a tight smile. "Just try not to break anything in the study." I nodded and hurried away, my heart pounding. Through the study's doorway, I could still see them at the table. Now I just had to wait and watch. From the study doorway, I watched Nina lift the coffee cup to her lips, and my stomach clenched with anxiety. Part of me wanted to stop her, to warn her, but I needed to know the truth. I'd spent too many nights in emergency rooms and too many hours doubled over in pain, always after sharing meals with them. It wasn't always like this. When I first met James at a friend's wedding in Nashville 3 years ago, he was charming and attentive. Nina had seemed welcoming too, inviting me to family gatherings and offering to help plan our wedding. But looking back, I should have noticed the red flags, the way she would accidentally spill things on my dress at important events, or how my food always seemed to have extra seasoning when she helped cook. The incident started small, an upset stomach here, a mild allergic reaction there. James always had an excuse ready. Maybe it was something you ate earlier, or you must be coming down with something. But the pattern was becoming clear. The worst was 2 months ago when I ended up hospitalized after eating breakfast at their house. The doctors found traces of something in my system they couldn't identify, but James convinced everyone I must have taken some expired medication. I gripped the doorframe watching, as Nina took another sip of the coffee. James was typing on his phone seemingly unconcerned. My own untouched cup sat cold on the table where I'd left it, the metallic smell still lingering in my nose, making me shudder. A slight tremor in Nina's hand caught my attention. She set down the cup, her face suddenly pale. "James," she said, her voice shaking. "Something's wrong." James looked up, his expression changing from confusion to horror, as he realized which cup she was drinking from. He jumped up, knocking over his chair. "Nina, what's happening?" Nina's hands were trembling violently now. I feel." She tried to stand but stumbled, grabbing the edge of the table for support. "James, what did you put in that coffee?" I stepped out of the study, my phone already recording. James was beside Nina now, his face ashen. "That wasn't supposed to be your cup," he whispered. But in the silence of the dining room, his words carried clearly. Nina's eyes widened with realization and fear. "Call an ambulance," she gasped, sliding to the floor. "Please." "I can't." I dialed 911 immediately, my hands steady despite the chaos unfolding before me. Nina was on the floor now, her body racked with violent tremors. James knelt beside her, panic written across his face, as he realized their plan had backfired spectacularly. "Emergency services? Yes, we need an ambulance at 1542 Maple Grove Drive," I said, clearly keeping my phone recording with my other hand. "My sister-in-law appears to be having a severe reaction to something in her coffee. She's conscious but experiencing tremors." As I spoke to the dispatcher, Nina's eyes locked onto mine. The usual cold calculation in her gaze was replaced by raw fear. "Christina," she gasped, "you switched. You knew." "Ma'am, the ambulance is on its way," the dispatcher assured me. "Please stay on the line." James was growing more frantic by the second. "Nina, what's happening? That wasn't supposed to. I mean, it wasn't meant for." "Shut up, James." Nina snapped through gritted teeth, her anger momentarily overcoming her distress. "This is all your fault. You said it would just make her sick enough to miss the board meeting next week. You promised it wouldn't be traced." My blood ran cold. The board meeting where I was scheduled to present my proposal for a major client account, the same account Nina had been trying to land for months at our competing firms. Everything started clicking into place. The tea last month, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. And the breakfast incident 2 months ago, those weren't accidents, were they? Nina's face contorted with another wave of pain. The tea that was supposed to keep you home during the Johnson contract presentation, but you went anyway. She clutched her stomach, doubling over. James said. He said we just needed to discredit you, make clients think you were unreliable. The sound of sirens filled the air outside. James stood up, backing away from both of us. Nina, stop talking, you don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. Nina spat, her words slurring slightly. We've been planning this for months, ever since Christina started outperforming me at every client meeting. You were supposed to make sure she drank it today. Now comment update to tag you on part 2.